Question 1. Compliance review shows a prospective student has approached a university staff member with a request for tips on the upcoming Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam, specifically asking for information that might give them an unfair advantage over other candidates. The staff member is considering how to respond. Option A. Inform the student that such requests are inappropriate and that the university has no mechanism to provide specific exam preparation advice. Option B. Advise the student on general study strategies and direct them to publicly available syllabus information, while clearly stating that specific exam content cannot be shared due to academic integrity policies. Option C. Suggest that the student seek out unofficial online forums where past exam questions are sometimes discussed, implying that this is a common way to prepare. Option D. Provide the student with a list of topics that are highly likely to appear on the exam, explaining that this is based on past trends and common knowledge in the field. Correct answer is B. Advise the student on general study strategies and direct them to publicly available syllabus information, while clearly stating that specific exam content cannot be shared due to academic integrity policies. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams can lead some students to seek unfair advantages, necessitating a robust and ethical response from university staff. Careful judgment is required to uphold the integrity of the examination process, while also providing fair and appropriate guidance to students. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and application of Aktobe University's internal regulations concerning academic honesty and examination conduct. This means recognizing that any form of academic dishonesty, including the unauthorized sharing of exam content, is a serious violation. The university's guidelines likely stipulate clear procedures for handling such breaches, which would involve reporting the incident to the appropriate academic committee or disciplinary board for investigation and adjudication. This approach is ethically sound as it prioritizes fairness to all students and maintains the credibility of the university's assessment. It aligns with the principle of upholding academic standards and ensuring that qualifications awarded are based on genuine merit. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the student's inquiry without proper consideration, or to engage in a discussion that could be construed as facilitating or condoning academic misconduct. For instance, providing the student with specific questions or topics that will appear on the exam, even if framed as helpful advice, directly violates the principles of fair assessment and academic integrity. This action would undermine the purpose of the entrance exam, which is to evaluate a student's existing knowledge and aptitude. Furthermore, such an action could lead to disciplinary action against the staff member involved, as it contravenes university policies designed to prevent cheating and ensure a level playing field for all candidates. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the student's request entirely without any form of response or guidance, as this fails to address a potential ethical breach and leaves the student without appropriate direction regarding acceptable conduct. Professionals in this situation should follow a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to university regulations and ethical principles. This involves 1. Recognizing the potential ethical issue presented by the student's inquiry. 2. Consulting the relevant university policies and guidelines regarding academic integrity and examination procedures. 3. Reporting the incident or concern through the designated channels within the university for investigation. 4. Avoiding any actions that could be perceived as assisting in or condoning academic misconduct. 5. Maintaining confidentiality and professionalism throughout the process. Question 2. Regulatory review indicates that an applicant for the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam has submitted an application that appears to meet most academic criteria, but lacks a specific, mandatory document due to unforeseen personal circumstances. The applicant has provided a detailed explanation of their situation. How should the admissions committee member proceed? Option A. Reject the application due to the incomplete submission, without further inquiry into the applicant's explanation. Option B. Request the applicant to provide supplementary documentation that directly addresses the missing requirement, while acknowledging the applicant's explanation of their circumstances. Option C. Consult with faculty members outside the admissions committee for their opinion on whether to waive the document requirement. Option D. Grant an immediate waiver for the missing document, citing the applicant's personal difficulties as sufficient justification. The correct answer is B. Request the applicant to provide supplementary documentation that directly addresses the missing requirement, while acknowledging the applicant's explanation of their circumstances. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between a student's personal circumstances and the university's established academic integrity policies. The admissions committee member must navigate the ethical obligation to uphold these policies, while also considering the potential for genuine hardship and the university's mission to provide educational opportunities. Careful judgment is required to ensure fairness, consistency, and adherence to the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exams regulatory framework. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of the applicant's submitted documentation, focusing on whether the provided evidence directly addresses the specific requirements and criteria outlined in the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exams admission guidelines. This approach is ethically sound and regulatorily compliant because it prioritizes objective evidence and established procedures. It ensures that decisions are based on merit and adherence to the stated rules, preventing bias and maintaining the integrity of the admissions process. The university's regulatory framework for entrance exams mandates that all applicants must meet defined academic and documentary standards. An incorrect approach would be to grant an exception based solely on the applicant's stated personal difficulties, without sufficient verifiable evidence that meets the exam's specific requirements. This fails to uphold the principle of equal treatment and can undermine the credibility of the admissions process. It also risks setting a precedent that could lead to future challenges in maintaining consistent standards. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the application outright without a thorough review of the provided documentation, even if it appears to address the stated requirements. This could be perceived as unfair and may not align with the university's commitment to considering all eligible candidates. A third incorrect approach would be to seek external validation or opinions from individuals not directly involved in the admissions committee's decision-making process, as this could introduce bias and circumvent the established internal review procedures. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the relevant regulatory framework and ethical guidelines. This involves meticulously reviewing all submitted materials against established criteria. When faced with ambiguous situations or potential hardship, the framework should include a process for seeking clarification or additional evidence that directly addresses the specific requirements, rather than making assumptions or granting exceptions without proper justification. Transparency and consistency in applying policies are paramount to maintaining professional integrity. Question 3. Consider a scenario where during the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam, a candidate notices a fellow student struggling significantly with a question and subtly attempts to signal the correct answer. The candidate is aware that such an action is against the examination rules, but believes they are helping a peer in need. Option A. Discreetly signal the correct answer to the struggling student, believing that helping a peer outweighs the minor infraction of the rules. Option B. Refrain from signaling the answer and focus on their own exam, understanding that academic integrity must be maintained for all participants. Option C. Ignore the struggling student and continue with their own exam without any interaction, prioritizing personal performance above all else. Option D. Approach the invigilator to offer assistance to the struggling student, suggesting they might need clarification on the question. The correct answer is B. Refrain from signaling the answer and focus on their own exam, understanding that academic integrity must be maintained for all participants. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to achieve a high score and the ethical imperative to uphold academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in a university entrance exam, especially one as significant as the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam, can lead individuals to consider shortcuts. However, the regulatory framework governing such examinations strictly prohibits any form of academic dishonesty. The core of the challenge lies in recognizing and adhering to these regulations, even when faced with perceived pressure or opportunity. The correct approach involves a commitment to personal effort and adherence to the examination rules. This means relying solely on one's own knowledge and understanding, and refraining from any action that could be construed as cheating or assisting others in doing so. This approach is justified by the foundational principles of academic integrity, which are paramount in any educational institution. Specifically, the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam regulations, like those of most reputable institutions, will explicitly forbid the use of unauthorized materials, communication with other candidates, or any attempt to gain an unfair advantage. Upholding these rules ensures a fair and equitable assessment for all candidates, reflecting their true abilities and knowledge. An incorrect approach that involves sharing answers with another candidate is a direct violation of academic integrity rules. This action undermines the fairness of the examination process and devalues the achievements of honest candidates. Ethically, it constitutes a breach of trust and a dishonest act. Another incorrect approach, such as using pre-prepared notes or unauthorized electronic devices, is also a clear violation of examination regulations. These actions are designed to circumvent the assessment of genuine knowledge and are considered serious academic misconduct. A third incorrect approach, attempting to bribe an invigilator, is not only a violation of academic integrity, but also a criminal offense, representing a severe ethical and legal transgression. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a clear understanding of the examination rules and regulations. Candidates must internalize the ethical obligations associated with academic pursuits. When faced with a situation where an opportunity for dishonesty arises, the professional decision-maker should pause and consider the potential consequences, both immediate e.g., disqualification, and long-term e.g., damage to reputation, inability to enroll. The guiding principle should always be to act with honesty and integrity, prioritizing personal effort and adherence to established rules over any perceived shortcut to success. Question 4. Operational review demonstrates that a faculty member has raised concerns about the clarity and potential ambiguity of several questions in the upcoming Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam. The faculty member suggests specific wording changes to improve comprehension. What is the most appropriate course of action to ensure the integrity and fairness of the examination? Option A. Share the faculty member's feedback and suggested changes with other departments for their informal opinion before any official action is taken. Option B. Disregard the feedback due to the approaching examination date and the perceived minimal impact on overall candidate performance. Option C. Immediately implement the suggested wording changes to the examination questions to address the faculty member's concerns promptly. Option D. Initiate a formal review process involving a committee of subject matter experts to assess the faculty member's feedback against the exam's learning objectives and established question writing guidelines, documenting all findings and decisions. The correct answer is D. Initiate a formal review process involving a committee of subject matter experts to assess the faculty member's feedback against the exam's learning objectives and established question writing guidelines, documenting all findings and decisions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential for conflicts of interest and the need to maintain academic integrity. The university's reputation and the fairness of the entrance examination process are at stake. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any review of examination materials is conducted impartially and in accordance with established university policies and ethical guidelines. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented review process that prioritizes fairness and transparency. This includes identifying potential biases, ensuring that all review activities adhere to the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exams established guidelines for question development and validation, and maintaining confidentiality of examination materials. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the principles of good governance and academic rigor expected of an educational institution. It ensures that the examination remains a valid and reliable measure of candidate aptitude and knowledge, free from undue influence or bias. An incorrect approach that involves immediate and unilateral alteration of examination questions based on a single reviewer's subjective opinion without a formal validation process would be professionally unacceptable. This bypasses established quality control mechanisms and could introduce new biases or errors, undermining the validity of the exam. It also fails to adhere to the university's regulatory framework for examination integrity. Another incorrect approach, which is to disregard the feedback entirely due to time constraints without any form of assessment or documentation, is also professionally unsound. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to address potential issues that could impact the fairness of the examination. It neglects the responsibility to ensure the quality and appropriateness of the assessment tools. A third incorrect approach, which is to share the feedback with external parties before a formal internal review and decision-making process, would violate confidentiality protocols and could compromise the security of the examination. This action could lead to reputational damage and undermine trust in the university's examination procedures. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Acknowledging and documenting all feedback received. 2. Initiating a formal review process in accordance with university policy involving relevant stakeholders and subject matter experts. 3. Assessing the validity and impact of the feedback on the examination's fairness and accuracy. 4. Making evidence-based decisions regarding any necessary revisions, ensuring all changes are properly documented and approved. 5. Maintaining strict confidentiality throughout the process. Question 5. The investigation demonstrates that an admissions committee member for the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam has a close personal relationship with one of the applicants. The committee member is aware of this relationship and its potential to influence their judgment. Which of the following actions best upholds the integrity of the entrance exam process and adheres to regulatory expectations for such evaluations? Option A. The committee member should proceed with evaluating the applicant's application as usual, ensuring they remain objective in their assessment. Option B. The committee member should inform the applicant that their application cannot be considered due to the personal relationship without involving the admissions committee. Option C. The committee member should subtly advocate for the applicant's admission to other committee members, highlighting their positive attributes without explicitly mentioning the personal relationship. Option D. The committee member should disclose their personal relationship to the admissions committee chair and recuse themselves from evaluating that specific applicant's application. The correct answer is D. The committee member should disclose their personal relationship to the admissions committee chair and recuse themselves from evaluating that specific applicant's application. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential for conflicts of interest and the need to uphold academic integrity, which are paramount in university admissions processes. The admissions committee member must navigate their personal relationship with an applicant while adhering to the strict guidelines of Aktobe University's entrance exam regulations. Careful judgment is required to ensure fairness and impartiality. The correct approach involves recusing oneself from the evaluation process of the applicant with whom a personal relationship exists. This upholds the principle of impartiality and avoids any perception of undue influence or favoritism. Aktobe University's regulatory framework, as implied by the context of an entrance exam, would mandate adherence to principles of fairness and equal opportunity for all candidates. Disclosing the relationship and stepping aside directly addresses potential conflicts of interest, ensuring the integrity of the admissions decision. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with evaluating the applicant without disclosure. This violates the ethical obligation to be impartial and could lead to accusations of bias, undermining the credibility of the admissions process and the university. It directly contravenes the spirit, if not the explicit letter, of regulations designed to ensure a merit-based selection. Another incorrect approach would be to subtly advocate for the applicant without a formal disclosure. This is a more insidious form of bias and is equally unacceptable. It circumvents the disclosure requirement and still introduces personal influence into the decision-making, compromising fairness. A further incorrect approach would be to dismiss the applicant's application outright due to the relationship, without a proper evaluation of their qualifications. This is discriminatory and fails to assess the applicant on their merits, which is a fundamental requirement of any fair admissions process. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's conflict of interest policies and ethical guidelines. When a potential conflict arises, the professional must proactively identify it, disclose it to the appropriate authority, e.g., the admissions committee chair or relevant department head, and recuse themselves from any decision-making process involving the individual in question. This ensures transparency, fairness, and maintains the integrity of the institution. Question 6. The analysis reveals that an applicant for the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam has submitted a strong performance on the standardized entrance examination, but their previous academic transcripts show a period of lower grades, which they attribute to extenuating personal circumstances. Considering the university's admission framework, which emphasizes academic preparedness, what is the most appropriate approach to evaluating this applicant? Option A. Primarily assess the applicant's performance on the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam, using the previous academic records as supplementary context to understand potential trends or anomalies. Option B. Disqualify the applicant due to the inconsistencies between their entrance exam performance and their previous academic records, as this suggests a lack of sustained academic capability. Option C. Exclusively base the admission decision on the applicant's previous academic transcripts, as they represent a longer-term academic history. Option D. Give significant weight to the applicant's personal statement explaining the extenuating circumstances, potentially overriding the entrance exam results if the explanation is compelling. The correct answer is A. Primarily assess the applicant's performance on the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam, using the previous academic records as supplementary context to understand potential trends or anomalies. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of university admissions, specifically how an applicant's prior academic performance is evaluated in the context of a competitive entrance examination. The challenge lies in discerning the most appropriate method for assessing an applicant's potential when faced with incomplete or potentially misleading information, ensuring fairness and adherence to the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam's established criteria. Careful judgment is required to avoid bias and to uphold the integrity of the admissions process. The correct approach involves a holistic review that prioritizes the applicant's performance on the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam itself, while also considering the provided academic records as supplementary information. This approach is justified by the fundamental purpose of an entrance exam: to assess an applicant's readiness and aptitude for university-level study based on a standardized measure. The university's regulatory framework, as implied by the existence of an entrance exam, would prioritize this direct assessment. Relying solely on prior academic records without the entrance exam would undermine the exam's purpose and could lead to an unfair comparison of applicants from different educational backgrounds. Furthermore, ethical considerations demand a fair and transparent evaluation process, which the entrance exam is designed to provide. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on the applicant's previous academic achievements, disregarding the entrance exam results. This fails to acknowledge the primary purpose of the entrance examination, as stipulated by the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exams framework. It also risks penalizing applicants who may have had less favorable prior academic experiences, but possess strong potential, as demonstrated by their performance on the standardized exam. Another incorrect approach would be to give undue weight to the applicant's personal statement or extracurricular activities when evaluating their academic suitability for the program, especially if the exam's regulations emphasize academic merit. While these aspects can provide valuable context, they are generally secondary to demonstrated academic performance. An exam results in the initial assessment for admission to a university program. The regulatory framework for an entrance exam typically prioritizes objective measures of academic capability. A further incorrect approach would be to dismiss the applicant's application outright due to minor discrepancies in their prior academic records without a thorough review of their entrance exam performance. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to apply the established admissions criteria fairly. The university's guidelines would likely mandate a comprehensive review process that considers all submitted materials, with the entrance exam playing a significant role. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Clearly understanding the specific admission criteria and weighting of different assessment components as defined by the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exams regulations. 2. Prioritizing the primary assessment tool, the entrance exam, while integrating supplementary information in a manner that aligns with the overall evaluation strategy. 3. Ensuring fairness and consistency by applying the same evaluation standards to all applicants. 4. Documenting the rationale for admission decisions to maintain transparency and accountability. Question 7. The risk matrix shows that while the applicant has a strong profile of extracurricular achievements, their entrance exam score falls slightly below the average for admitted students in the previous cycle. The Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam regulations state that admission is primarily based on entrance exam performance, with extracurricular activities considered as secondary factors to differentiate between candidates with similar academic scores. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework for admissions at Aktobe University's Baishev? Option A. Recommend deferring the decision until further interviews can be conducted to assess the applicant's fit with the university culture, as extracurriculars suggest a strong cultural alignment. Option B. Prioritize the applicant's strong extracurricular profile, arguing it demonstrates leadership and well-roundedness, and recommend admission despite the slightly lower entrance exam score. Option C. Suggest the applicant retake the entrance exam to improve their score, as the current score is below the average, and then reevaluate their application solely based on the new score. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entrance exam performance, comparing it against the minimum score requirements and the distribution of scores for admitted students, and then consider the extracurricular achievements as a supplementary factor for differentiation, if academic scores are comparable to other candidates. The correct answer is B. Prioritize the applicant's strong extracurricular profile, arguing it demonstrates leadership and well-roundedness, and recommend admission despite the slightly lower entrance exam score. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in university admissions, balancing the desire to admit promising candidates with the need to adhere strictly to established academic and ethical standards. The professional challenge lies in interpreting the university's admission policy, particularly concerning the weight given to extracurricular achievements versus academic performance, and ensuring fairness and transparency in the decision-making process. A misinterpretation or arbitrary application of the policy could lead to accusations of bias, unfairness, and a breach of the university's own regulations, potentially damaging its reputation and the integrity of its admissions process. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective assessment of the applicant's profile against the explicit criteria outlined in the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam regulations. This means prioritizing the documented academic achievements and entrance exam scores as the primary determinants of admission, while considering extracurricular activities only as supplementary evidence, as per the policy's hierarchy. This approach upholds the principle of meritocracy and ensures that all applicants are evaluated on a consistent and transparent basis, aligning with the university's commitment to academic excellence and fair selection. An incorrect approach would be to unduly emphasize the applicant's extensive extracurricular involvement, potentially overlooking or downplaying a slightly lower entrance exam score. This would violate the spirit and letter of the entrance exam regulations, which clearly prioritize academic performance and standardized testing results. Such a decision could be perceived as favoritism or a deviation from established policy, leading to ethical concerns and potential challenges from other applicants who met the academic thresholds. Another incorrect approach would be to apply subjective criteria or personal biases when evaluating the applicant's profile, such as personal acquaintance or perceived potential outside of the defined academic metrics. This undermines the objectivity required in admissions and contravenes the regulatory framework that mandates a standardized and impartial evaluation process. Professionals in university admissions should employ a structured decision-making framework. This involves 1. Clearly understanding and referencing the specific admission regulations and policies of Aktobe University's Baishev. 2. Objectively evaluating each component of an applicant's profile against the defined criteria, assigning appropriate weight as stipulated by the policy. 3. Documenting the rationale for each decision, ensuring it is directly traceable to the policy and the applicant's submitted materials. 4. Seeking peer review or committee consensus for borderline cases to ensure consistency and mitigate individual bias. 5. Maintaining transparency in the process and being prepared to justify decisions based on established regulations. Question 8. To address the challenge of a fellow student struggling with a difficult assignment and expressing significant anxiety about failing, you are approached for help. The student implies they are considering ways to get the assignment done quickly, hinting at potentially unethical shortcuts. You are aware of the university's strict policies on academic integrity and the severe consequences of misconduct. Which of the following represents the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Politely decline to offer any direct assistance with the assignment, citing university policy, and suggest they seek help from the university's academic support center. Option B. Agree to help the student by working on the assignment together, sharing your own completed work as a reference point for them to follow closely. Option C. Offer to complete a significant portion of the assignment for the student to alleviate their immediate stress and ensure they submit something. Option D. Provide the student with direct answers and solutions to the assignment questions, explaining that you are helping them learn by showing them the correct way. The correct answer is A. Politely decline to offer any direct assistance with the assignment, citing university policy, and suggest they seek help from the university's academic support center. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's perceived need for academic assistance and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The challenge lies in navigating the ethical boundaries of providing support without compromising the principles of fair assessment and preventing academic misconduct. The pressure to perform well, coupled with the desire to help a peer, requires careful judgment to uphold ethical standards. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves recognizing the student's distress and offering appropriate ethical support. This means guiding the student towards university-provided resources such as academic advising, tutoring services, or counseling. This approach is correct because it upholds the principles of academic integrity by not directly assisting with the assignment in a way that could be construed as academic misconduct. It aligns with the ethical duty to foster a fair learning environment and to guide students towards self-sufficiency and legitimate academic support channels, as typically outlined in university codes of conduct and academic integrity policies. Incorrect approach is analysis. Offering to complete parts of the assignment for the student is an incorrect approach because it directly facilitates academic misconduct, violating the core principles of academic integrity. This action undermines the assessment process and is unethical. Providing the student with direct answers or solutions to the assignment questions is also an incorrect approach. This constitutes academic dishonesty and prevents the student from developing their own understanding and skills, which is contrary to the educational mission of the university. Ignoring the student's request and offering no support, while not directly facilitating misconduct, is an ethically insufficient approach. While it avoids direct complicity, it fails to demonstrate professional responsibility towards a peer in distress and misses an opportunity to guide them towards legitimate resources. This can be seen as a failure of collegiality and support within the academic community. Professional reasoning. Professionals in an academic setting should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes academic integrity and ethical conduct. This involves 1. Identifying the core ethical dilemma, balancing support for a peer with upholding academic standards. 2. Consulting relevant university policies and codes of conduct regarding academic integrity and student support. 3. Evaluating potential actions based on their adherence to these policies and ethical principles. 4. Prioritizing actions that offer legitimate support and guidance towards approved resources over those that could compromise academic integrity. 5. Communicating clearly and empathetically with the student about the boundaries of acceptable assistance. 9. The review process indicates that the admissions committee for the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam has implemented a new digital submission system for supporting documents, which has expedited processing times. However, there is a concern that this system may not fully align with the specific data verification protocols mandated by the university's entrance exam regulations. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Continue using the new digital system, assuming that the expedited processing is a sign of efficiency and that minor deviations from older protocols are acceptable. Option B. Implement minor adjustments to the digital system based on the committee's best judgment to address potential issues without formally consulting the entrance exam regulations. Option C. Immediately cease using the new digital system and revert to the previous manual process until a full compliance audit can be conducted. Option D. Conduct a detailed review of the new digital system's workflow against the exact requirements of the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam regulations to identify and rectify any discrepancies. The correct answer is C. Immediately cease using the new digital system and revert to the previous manual process until a full compliance audit can be conducted. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's desire for efficient admissions processing and the absolute necessity of adhering to the established regulatory framework for entrance exams. The pressure to expedite can lead to shortcuts that compromise fairness and compliance. Careful judgment is required to balance operational needs with the integrity of the examination process, ensuring all candidates are treated equitably and according to the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam regulations. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the admissions committee's workflow against the documented procedures outlined in the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam guidelines. This means identifying any deviations, however minor, and implementing corrective actions that realign the process with the regulations. This approach is professionally sound because it prioritizes regulatory compliance, which is paramount in any educational institution's admissions process. Adherence to these regulations ensures fairness, transparency, and the validity of the entrance examination, thereby upholding the university's reputation and the trust of prospective students. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the identified discrepancies as minor operational inefficiencies without a thorough review against the exam's regulatory framework. This fails to acknowledge the potential for even small deviations to have significant implications for fairness and compliance. Another incorrect approach would be to implement immediate, ad hoc changes without consulting the official guidelines or seeking clarification from the relevant examination authorities. This risks introducing new procedural errors or violating other, unaddressed aspects of the regulations. A further incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed over accuracy, assuming that the current process, despite the review's findings, is sufficiently robust. This demonstrates a disregard for the importance of meticulous adherence to established protocols, potentially leading to challenges or disputes regarding the fairness of the admissions process. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the relevant regulations. They must then objectively assess the current process against these regulations, identify any gaps or noncompliance, and develop a remediation plan that is fully aligned with the established framework. This plan should be reviewed and approved by appropriate stakeholders before implementation, ensuring that all actions taken are both effective and compliant. Question 10. What factors determine the eligibility of an applicant for the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam, considering the university's specific admission framework? Option A. Personal academic achievements and extracurricular activities not explicitly mentioned in the university's admission guidelines. Option B. Equivalence of academic qualifications with those required for similar programs at international universities. Option C. General knowledge of university admission processes in Kazakhstan and anecdotal advice from current students. Option D. Adherence to the official Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam regulations and submission of all stipulated documentation. The correct answer is D. Adherence to the official Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam regulations and submission of all stipulated documentation. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to navigate the specific admission requirements of Aktobe University Baishev, which are governed by the university's internal regulations and potentially broader national educational standards of Kazakhstan. Misinterpreting or failing to adhere to these requirements can lead to an invalid application, causing significant distress and wasted effort for the applicant. The core of the challenge lies in accurately identifying and applying the correct set of criteria as stipulated by the university's official documentation. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the official Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam regulations and guidelines. This approach is right because it directly addresses the source of truth for admission criteria. By consulting the university's published documents, applicants ensure they are basing their understanding and preparation on the definitive requirements, thereby maximizing their chances of a successful application. This aligns with the ethical principle of honesty and transparency in academic admissions, where all applicants should be assessed against the same, clearly defined standards. An incorrect approach of relying on informal advice from peers or outdated information, is professionally unacceptable. It fails to meet the regulatory requirement of adhering to current, official university guidelines. The ethical failure here is a lack of due diligence, potentially leading to an applicant being misinformed and disadvantaged. Another incorrect approach of assuming similarity to admission processes at other universities is also flawed. Each university, including Aktobe University Baishev, has its own unique set of regulations, and assuming equivalence is a regulatory misstep. This demonstrates a failure to understand and respect the specific jurisdiction of the exam. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with identifying the governing body or institution Aktobe University Baishev. Next, the applicant must locate and meticulously review all official documentation related to the entrance exam, including admission criteria, required documents, and application procedures. If any ambiguity exists, the applicant should seek clarification directly from the university's admissions office. This systematic approach ensures compliance with all stipulated regulations and ethical standards. Question 11. Operational review demonstrates that during the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam, a proctor observed a candidate appearing to use a mobile phone discreetly under their desk. The proctor reported this observation to the chief invigilator. According to the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam's regulatory framework, what is the most appropriate immediate course of action for the chief invigilator? Option A. Verbally warn the candidate about the prohibition of electronic devices and allow them to continue the examination, assuming it was a minor infraction. Option B. Instruct the proctor to discreetly monitor the candidate for further suspicious activity without immediate intervention and to document all observations meticulously. Option C. Immediately confiscate the candidate's examination paper and escort them out of the examination hall pending a formal investigation by the examination committee. Option D. Ask the candidate directly if they were using a mobile phone and make a decision based on their verbal response. The correct answer is C. Immediately confiscate the candidate's examination paper and escort them out of the examination hall pending a formal investigation by the examination committee. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to ensuring the integrity of the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam process, specifically concerning the handling of potential irregularities. The challenge lies in balancing the need for fairness and transparency with the requirement to adhere strictly to the established examination regulations and guidelines. A hasty or improperly documented response could lead to accusations of bias, procedural unfairness, or even legal challenges, undermining the credibility of the entire examination. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented process of investigation and decision-making, strictly adhering to the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam's regulatory framework. This approach prioritizes evidence gathering, impartial assessment, and adherence to established protocols for handling exam irregularities. Specifically, it requires the examination committee to formally document the observed anomaly, initiate a thorough investigation based on the university's stated procedures for such events, and then convene to discuss the findings and make a decision based solely on the evidence and the university's regulations. This ensures that any action taken is justifiable, transparent, and consistent with the exam's governing rules, thereby upholding academic integrity and fairness. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the candidate without a formal investigation or documentation. This fails to adhere to the principle of due process, which is implicitly or explicitly part of most academic regulations. It bypasses the established procedures for handling irregularities, potentially leading to an unfair outcome for the candidate and exposing the university to criticism. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the observation, assuming it is insignificant. This neglects the university's responsibility to maintain the integrity of its entrance examinations and could allow for undetected breaches of regulations, eroding trust in the examination system. Finally, an approach that involves informal discussions and decisions without proper documentation or adherence to the university's stated procedures for handling irregularities is also professionally unacceptable. It lacks transparency, accountability, and a clear audit trail, making it difficult to defend any subsequent actions and potentially violating internal university policies. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to understanding and strictly applying the specific regulatory framework of the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam. This includes familiarizing oneself with the university's policies on academic integrity, examination conduct, and procedures for addressing irregularities. When an anomaly is observed, the professional should pause, gather all available information, and consult the relevant regulations before taking any action. Documentation at every stage is crucial. If unsure about the interpretation of a regulation, seeking clarification from the appropriate university authority or committee is essential. The ultimate goal is to ensure that all decisions are fair, consistent, and defensible within the established legal and ethical boundaries of the institution. Question 12. Stakeholder feedback indicates a perception among some parents that the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam may not be accurately reflecting the true academic potential of all applicants, leading to concerns about fairness. As an admissions committee member, what is the most appropriate course of action to address these concerns while upholding the integrity of the examination process? Option A. Directly adjust the admission cutoff scores for certain applicant groups to accommodate the perceived disparities, as suggested by some stakeholders. Option B. Convene an informal meeting with a select group of concerned parents to privately discuss individual applicant cases and explore potential exceptions to the standard admission criteria. Option C. Publicly dismiss the stakeholder feedback as unfounded and reiterate the infallibility of the current examination system without further investigation. Option D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the examination's question design, scoring methodology, and administration procedures, ensuring strict adherence to the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam regulations, and communicate the findings and any procedural adjustments transparently. The correct answer is D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the examination's question design, scoring methodology, and administration procedures, ensuring strict adherence to the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam regulations, and communicate the findings and any procedural adjustments transparently. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in balancing stakeholder expectations with the integrity of the university's admissions process, specifically concerning the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam. The challenge lies in navigating external pressure that could compromise fairness and meritocracy, which are foundational principles of academic institutions. Careful judgment is required to uphold these principles, while acknowledging and addressing legitimate stakeholder concerns. The correct approach involves a transparent and systematic review of the admissions criteria and the examination process, ensuring adherence to the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam regulations. This approach prioritizes fairness, equal opportunity, and the academic merit of candidates. It aligns with the ethical obligation of the university to maintain a rigorous and unbiased selection process, as mandated by its internal regulations and the broader educational framework governing higher education in Kazakhstan. This method ensures that any perceived issues are addressed through established, documented procedures, reinforcing trust in the examination's validity. An incorrect approach that involves directly altering examination scores or criteria based on stakeholder pressure would represent a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This would undermine the principle of meritocracy, creating an unfair advantage for some and disadvantaging others who met the established standards. Such an action would violate the spirit and letter of the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam regulations, which are designed to ensure a level playing field. Furthermore, it could lead to a decline in the academic quality of admitted students and damage the university's reputation. Another incorrect approach, such as dismissing stakeholder feedback without proper investigation, would also be professionally unsound. While not directly compromising the exam's integrity, it fails to address potential systemic issues or perceptions of unfairness, which can erode stakeholder confidence. A responsible professional decision-making process in such situations involves a structured approach. First, acknowledging and documenting all feedback received. Second, assessing the feedback against existing regulations and best practices for the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam. Third, initiating a review process that is fair, transparent, and adheres strictly to the university's established procedures for admissions and examinations. Finally, communicating the findings and any resulting actions clearly and appropriately to all relevant stakeholders. Question 13. The assessment process reveals that a candidate for the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam is unsure whether they can use a specific online resource that provides detailed explanations of complex concepts, which is not explicitly listed as permitted or prohibited in the exam instructions. The candidate is concerned about the integrity of their application. Option A. The candidate should discreetly use the online resource, believing that as long as they do not directly copy answers, it is a form of legitimate research that demonstrates initiative. Option B. The candidate should assume that any resource not explicitly prohibited is permissible and proceed to use the online resource to ensure they provide the most comprehensive answers possible. Option C. The candidate should ask a fellow candidate for their opinion on whether the online resource is acceptable, as peer consensus can often indicate acceptable practices. Option D. The candidate should refrain from using the online resource and rely solely on their existing knowledge and any materials explicitly permitted by the exam guidelines, seeking clarification from exam officials if unsure about specific rules. The correct answer is B. The candidate should assume that any resource not explicitly prohibited is permissible and proceed to use the online resource to ensure they provide the most comprehensive answers possible. Explanation. The assessment process for Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam requires candidates to demonstrate an understanding of academic integrity and ethical conduct, particularly concerning the use of external resources. This scenario is professionally challenging because it tests a candidate's ability to navigate the fine line between legitimate research and academic dishonesty, a common pitfall in academic settings. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between acceptable assistance and prohibited actions. The correct approach involves understanding and adhering to the specific rules of the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam regarding the use of external materials. This means only utilizing resources explicitly permitted by the exam guidelines, such as approved textbooks or notes if allowed, and refraining from any form of unauthorized collaboration or information retrieval. This aligns with the fundamental principle of academic integrity, which is paramount in any educational institution. The regulatory framework for the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam, like most university entrance exams, strictly prohibits any form of cheating or plagiarism. Adhering to these rules ensures a fair assessment of each candidate's individual knowledge and abilities, upholding the credibility of the examination process. An incorrect approach that involves consulting unauthorized online forums or asking a peer for direct answers during the exam constitutes a clear violation of academic integrity. This action directly contravenes the spirit and letter of the exam regulations, which are designed to ensure a level playing field. Such behavior undermines the validity of the assessment and can lead to severe penalties, including disqualification. Another incorrect approach, such as using a pre-written essay or answers obtained from previous exams, is a form of plagiarism and academic dishonesty. This not only violates the exam rules, but also demonstrates a lack of genuine understanding and effort, which are core values the university seeks to foster. The professional decision-making process for candidates facing such a situation should involve a thorough review of the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam's official guidelines on academic conduct and permitted resources. Before commencing the exam, candidates must be clear about what constitutes acceptable and unacceptable behavior. If there is any ambiguity, seeking clarification from the examination proctors or university administration before the exam begins is the responsible course of action. During the exam, candidates must rely solely on their own knowledge and the materials explicitly permitted by the rules. Any temptation to seek external help or use unauthorized resources should be resisted by remembering the importance of integrity and the potential consequences of academic misconduct. Question 14. The evaluation methodology shows an applicant for the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam has submitted a portfolio containing numerous awards, publications, and project leadership roles that appear significantly advanced for their academic stage. What is the most appropriate next step for the admissions committee to ensure a fair and rigorous assessment? Option A. Lightly inform the applicant that their portfolio appears to exceed the typical achievements for their level and suggest they reapply in a future cycle after gaining more experience. Option B. Request detailed evidence of the applicant's direct contributions and understanding of the portfolio's content, potentially through interviews or practical assessments, while adhering to the Baishev entrance exam guidelines on portfolio evaluation. Option C. Immediately accept the portfolio as evidence of exceptional talent and proceed with the admission decision based on its impressive scope. Option D. Disregard the portfolio entirely, focusing solely on the standardized test scores as the sole determinant of admission, as per the Baishev entrance exam's primary assessment criteria. Correct answer is B. Request detailed evidence of the applicant's direct contributions and understanding of the portfolio's content, potentially through interviews or practical assessments, while adhering to the Baishev entrance exam guidelines on portfolio evaluation. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a scenario where an applicant for Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam has presented a portfolio that appears to significantly exceed the typical achievements of a candidate at their academic level. This presents a professional challenge because the admissions committee must uphold the integrity of the entrance exam process while fairly assessing the applicant's genuine capabilities. The core of the challenge lies in distinguishing between exceptional, independently achieved merit and potential misrepresentation or undue external assistance that might circumvent the spirit of the entrance examination. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the evaluation is both rigorous and equitable, preventing both the exclusion of a genuinely talented student and the admission of someone who has not met the required standards through their own efforts. The correct approach involves a multifaceted verification process. This includes requesting detailed evidence of the applicant's contributions to the presented portfolio, such as original drafts, research logs, or testimonials from supervisors or mentors who can attest to the applicant's direct involvement and skill level. Furthermore, conducting a targeted interview or a practical assessment related to the portfolio's content would allow for direct evaluation of the applicant's understanding and abilities. This approach is justified by the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment, as outlined in the Baishev entrance exam guidelines, which implicitly require that all submitted materials accurately reflect the applicant's own work and qualifications. The goal is to ensure that the admission decision is based on a true reflection of the applicant's potential to succeed in the university's academic programs. An incorrect approach would be to immediately accept the portfolio at face value without further scrutiny. This fails to uphold the university's responsibility to ensure the validity of the entrance examination and could lead to admitting students who have not demonstrated the required foundational knowledge or skills through their own merit. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the portfolio outright due to its perceived exceptionalism, without providing the applicant an opportunity to substantiate their claims. This would be unfair and could lead to the rejection of a highly capable and deserving candidate, violating principles of equitable assessment. A third incorrect approach would be to focus solely on the quantity of achievements listed, rather than the quality and the applicant's demonstrated understanding and contribution. This superficial evaluation would not provide a true measure of the applicant's suitability for the university. Professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. First, acknowledge the exceptional nature of the submission and the need for due diligence. Second, consult the relevant sections of the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam regulations concerning the evaluation of supplementary materials and the verification of applicant credentials. Third, design a verification strategy that is proportionate to the perceived discrepancy, balancing thoroughness with efficiency. This strategy should prioritize methods that directly assess the applicant's knowledge and skills. Finally, document all steps taken in the verification process and the rationale for the final decision to ensure transparency and accountability. Question 15. The performance metrics show a statistically significant deviation in the pass rates for a specific section of the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam across different demographic groups of applicants. What is the most appropriate next step for the university's examination board to take? Option A. Publicly announce that the examination section is being reviewed due to performance variations, without initiating any specific analytical or corrective actions to manage public perception. Option B. Immediately revise the scoring rubric for that specific section to bring the pass rates for all demographic groups into closer alignment, assuming the deviation indicates an inherent unfairness in the current scoring. Option C. Disregard the observed deviation, attributing it to natural variations in applicant preparedness, and maintain the current examination structure without further investigation. Option D. Convene a special committee comprising faculty members from relevant departments and examination specialists to conduct a thorough analysis of the performance metrics, investigate potential contributing factors, and propose evidence-based recommendations for review and potential adjustments to the examination content or administration. The correct answer is D. Convene a special committee comprising faculty members from relevant departments and examination specialists to conduct a thorough analysis of the performance metrics, investigate potential contributing factors, and propose evidence-based recommendations for review and potential adjustments to the examination content or administration. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an understanding of how to interpret and act upon performance data within the specific regulatory context of Aktobe University's entrance exam framework. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate and ethically sound response to a situation where performance metrics suggest a potential issue, without resorting to assumptions or actions that could compromise the integrity of the examination process or unfairly disadvantage candidates. Careful judgment is required to balance the need for data-driven improvement with adherence to established university regulations and examination guidelines. The correct approach involves a systematic review and analysis of the identified performance metrics by the relevant academic and administrative bodies. This approach is correct because it aligns with the principles of continuous improvement and quality assurance mandated by university regulations. Specifically, it respects the established procedures for evaluating examination effectiveness and identifying areas for enhancement. By convening a committee to analyze the data and propose evidence-based recommendations, the university demonstrates a commitment to fairness, transparency, and the academic integrity of its entrance examinations, as implicitly or explicitly required by its internal regulatory framework. This process ensures that any changes are well considered and justified, preventing arbitrary decisions. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement changes based solely on a superficial understanding of the performance metrics. This fails to acknowledge the complexity of factors that can influence examination performance and bypasses the established review processes. Such an action could lead to unintended negative consequences, such as introducing new biases or overlooking the root causes of any observed performance variation. It also disregards the procedural requirements for curriculum or examination review, potentially violating internal university policies. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the performance metrics entirely without any form of investigation. This demonstrates a lack of commitment to quality assurance and continuous improvement, which are fundamental to maintaining the credibility of an academic institution. Ignoring data that suggests potential issues, even if preliminary, can lead to the perpetuation of systemic problems within the examination process, ultimately undermining the university's reputation and the fairness of its admissions. This approach fails to uphold the professional responsibility to ensure that examinations are effective and equitable. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Data review and understanding. Thoroughly examine the performance metrics to understand what they represent and their potential implications. 2. Contextualization. Consider the specific context of the examination, including the subject matter, the candidate pool, and any external factors that might influence performance. 3. Consultation and collaboration. Engage relevant stakeholders, such as faculty, examination committees, and academic administrators, to gather diverse perspectives and expertise. 4. Evidence-based analysis. Conduct a rigorous analysis of the data to identify root causes and potential areas for improvement. 5. Recommendation development. Formulate recommendations that are practical, ethical, and aligned with university regulations and best practices. 6. Implementation and monitoring. Implement approved changes and establish mechanisms to monitor their effectiveness. Question 16. The risk matrix shows a potential for academic integrity breaches during the recent entrance examinations at Aktobe University, specifically highlighting a student who claims severe anxiety led to an inability to recall information, and who is now requesting a special re-examination outside the standard procedure. The university's examination regulations stipulate a clear process for handling appeals and academic misconduct. What is the most appropriate course of action for the examination committee? Option A. Dismiss the student's request as a common excuse for poor performance and proceed with the standard examination results. Option B. Advise the student to seek external psychological counseling and inform them that no special provisions can be made for their examination performance. Option C. Initiate a formal investigation into the student's examination performance, gathering all available evidence and consulting the university's regulations on academic appeals and integrity before making any decision. Option D. Immediately grant the student a special re-examination to accommodate their stated anxiety and prevent a negative academic outcome. The correct answer is D. Immediately grant the student a special re-examination to accommodate their stated anxiety and prevent a negative academic outcome. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's perceived academic need and the university's established regulatory framework for academic integrity and fairness. The risk matrix, by highlighting potential issues, necessitates a careful and principled response that upholds the university's standards while addressing the student's situation. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective investigation of the student's claim, adhering strictly to Aktobe University's internal regulations regarding academic appeals and plagiarism. This means gathering all relevant documentation, interviewing all parties involved, and applying the established disciplinary procedures impartially. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant because it respects due process, ensures fairness to all parties, and upholds the integrity of the academic evaluation system as mandated by Aktobe University's charter and examination guidelines. It prioritizes evidence-based decision-making over assumptions or emotional responses. An incorrect approach would be to immediately grant the student an exemption or a re-examination based solely on their stated anxiety and the potential negative impact on their academic record. This fails to acknowledge the university's established procedures for handling academic misconduct and appeals. It bypasses the necessary investigation and evidence gathering, potentially setting a precedent that undermines the fairness of the examination process for all students and violates the principles of academic integrity enshrined in Aktobe University's regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the student's concerns outright, without any form of review or consideration. This would be unprofessional and ethically questionable, as it fails to demonstrate a commitment to student welfare or a willingness to address legitimate concerns within the established framework. It could also lead to a perception of unfairness and a lack of support from the university, potentially escalating the situation. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the full scope of the university's regulations concerning academic integrity, appeals, and student support. They must then follow a structured decision-making process. 1. Identify the core issue. Is it a potential academic integrity violation, a procedural error, or a student welfare concern? 2. Consult relevant policies. Refer to Aktobe University's specific rules and guidelines for examinations, appeals, and disciplinary actions. 3. Gather information. Collect all necessary evidence and statements from all involved parties. 4. Apply established procedures. Follow the outlined steps for investigation and resolution. 5. Make an objective decision. Base the outcome on evidence and regulatory compliance. 6. Communicate clearly. Inform all parties of the decision and the rationale behind it. Question 17. The control framework reveals that an invigilator for the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam has discovered that one of the candidates is their first cousin. The invigilator is aware of the university's strict policies regarding impartiality and the prevention of any form of undue influence during examinations. What is the most appropriate course of action for the invigilator in this situation? Option A. Discreetly offer the candidate subtle assistance during the exam to ensure they perform well, rationalizing it as helping a family member. Option B. Immediately report the relationship to the chief invigilator or designated examination authority and request to be reassigned from supervising the candidate's examination room. Option C. Proceed with invigilating the examination as normal, assuming the personal relationship will not influence their professional conduct. Option D. Avoid direct interaction with the candidate but continue to supervise their room, hoping the relationship remains unnoticed and has no impact. Correct answer is B. Immediately report the relationship to the chief invigilator or designated examination authority and request to be reassigned from supervising the candidate's examination room. Explanation. The control framework reveals a potential conflict of interest scenario that is professionally challenging due to the need to balance personal relationships with professional integrity and adherence to Aktobe University's entrance examination regulations. The core challenge lies in ensuring fairness and impartiality in the examination process while navigating a personal connection. Careful judgment is required to uphold the integrity of the entrance exam and prevent any perception or reality of undue influence. The correct approach involves immediate and transparent disclosure of the relationship to the relevant university authorities responsible for exam administration. This action aligns with the principles of ethical conduct and regulatory compliance expected of all individuals involved in the examination process. By reporting the situation, the individual demonstrates a commitment to transparency and allows the university to implement appropriate measures to ensure impartiality, such as reassigning examination duties or implementing enhanced oversight. This proactive step safeguards the integrity of the entrance exam and upholds the trust placed in the examination process by all applicants and the university. An incorrect approach of proceeding with the examination duties without disclosure would constitute a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This action would violate the principle of impartiality, as the personal relationship could unconsciously or consciously influence the assessment of the applicant. It would also breach the university's regulations concerning conflicts of interest and the integrity of entrance examinations, potentially leading to disciplinary action and undermining the credibility of the entire admission process. Another incorrect approach of attempting to subtly favor the relative during the examination, even with the intention of helping them, is equally unacceptable. This constitutes direct manipulation of the examination process, a severe breach of ethical conduct and university regulations. Such actions directly compromise the fairness of the competition for all applicants and can have serious repercussions for the university's reputation and the validity of its admissions. A further incorrect approach of ignoring the relationship and hoping it does not impact the examination is a passive, but still problematic stance. While it may not involve active manipulation, it still fails to address the inherent conflict of interest. This inaction allows the potential for bias to persist, undermining the principle of a fair and objective assessment. It demonstrates a lack of professional responsibility in proactively managing potential ethical dilemmas. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's code of conduct and examination regulations. When a potential conflict of interest arises, the immediate steps should be: 1. Identify the conflict. 2. Consult relevant university policies and guidelines. 3. Disclose the conflict to the appropriate authority promptly and transparently. 4. Follow the guidance provided by the university to mitigate the conflict and ensure the integrity of the process. This systematic approach prioritizes ethical conduct and regulatory compliance. Question 18. Strategic planning requires a proactive and evidence-based approach to university operations. Considering the feedback received from prospective students regarding the perceived difficulty and accessibility of the Aktobe University Baishev entrance exam, which of the following approaches best aligns with sound strategic planning principles and the university's commitment to academic excellence and fairness? Option A. Implement minor cosmetic changes to the exam's presentation, such as font size or layout, while resisting any substantive review of the exam's content or assessment methodology. Option B. Immediately reduce the difficulty of the entrance exam questions and lower the passing threshold to address student concerns and increase enrollment numbers for the upcoming academic year. Option C. Publicly dismiss student concerns as unfounded and maintain the current entrance exam structure, emphasizing that the exam's difficulty is a necessary measure of academic preparedness. Option D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the entrance exam's format, content, and scoring mechanisms, involving academic departments, admissions committees, and student representatives, to identify areas for improvement that enhance assessment validity and accessibility without compromising academic rigor. The correct answer is D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the entrance exam's format, content, and scoring mechanisms, involving academic departments, admissions committees, and student representatives, to identify areas for improvement that enhance assessment validity and accessibility without compromising academic rigor. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in university administration: balancing the immediate needs of students with the long-term strategic goals and resource constraints of the institution. Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam regulations, while not explicitly detailed here, would generally mandate adherence to principles of fairness, transparency, and efficient resource allocation in admissions and academic planning. The challenge lies in identifying a strategic approach that is both responsive to student feedback and aligned with the university's overarching mission and operational capacity. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of the entrance exam structure and content, considering feedback from various stakeholders including students, faculty, and administrative staff. This approach is justified by the need for continuous improvement in academic processes, ensuring the exam accurately assesses preparedness for university-level study while remaining accessible and fair. Adherence to the university's internal regulations and any relevant national educational standards would be paramount, focusing on evidence-based decision-making rather than immediate, potentially unsustainable, concessions. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement changes based solely on a vocal minority of student concerns without thorough investigation. This fails to consider the broader impact on academic standards, faculty workload, and the university's reputation. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss student feedback entirely, which can lead to dissatisfaction, a decline in applicant quality, and a perception of administrative inflexibility, potentially violating principles of stakeholder engagement expected in educational institutions. Finally, making decisions based on anecdotal evidence or pressure from specific groups without a systematic review undermines the integrity of the strategic planning process and could lead to decisions that are not in the best long-term interest of the university or its student body. Professionals in university administration should employ a structured decision-making process that includes 1. Identifying the core issue and its potential impact. 2. Gathering comprehensive data and feedback from all relevant stakeholders. 3. Analyzing the data against institutional goals, regulatory requirements, and best practices. 4. Developing and evaluating potential solutions based on feasibility, impact, and alignment with strategic objectives. And 5. Implementing the chosen solution with clear communication and a plan for monitoring its effectiveness. Question 19. The monitoring system demonstrates a pattern of unusual activity surrounding the submission of application materials for a specific program at Aktobe University's Baishev, including multiple applications originating from the same IP address and a high number of identical essay submissions. Which of the following represents the most appropriate initial response by the admissions committee? Option A. Initiate a formal, documented investigation into the flagged applications, cross-referencing them with university admission regulations, and seeking clarification from relevant departments if necessary. Option B. Immediately reject all applications flagged by the monitoring system to maintain the integrity of the admissions process. Option C. Disregard the monitoring system's flags as potential technical glitches and proceed with the standard admissions review process. Option D. Conduct informal inquiries with the admissions staff to gauge their awareness of the flagged activity before taking any action. The correct answer is A. Initiate a formal, documented investigation into the flagged applications, cross-referencing them with university admission regulations, and seeking clarification from relevant departments if necessary. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and the potential for undue influence or bias in the admissions process. The admissions committee at Aktobe University's Baishev must navigate this delicate balance, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated fairly and objectively, in accordance with the university's established admission regulations and ethical guidelines. The monitoring system's findings necessitate a careful and systematic review to uphold the principles of transparency and meritocracy. The correct approach involves a thorough, documented investigation into the specific instances flagged by the monitoring system. This approach prioritizes adherence to the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance exam regulations, which likely mandate fair and impartial evaluation of all candidates. By initiating a formal review process, the university demonstrates its commitment to its own internal policies and to the principle of equal opportunity for all prospective students. This systematic investigation ensures that any potential irregularities are identified and addressed appropriately, safeguarding the integrity of the admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the monitoring system's findings without further inquiry. This failure to investigate potential breaches of admission regulations would be a direct violation of the university's commitment to fair play and could lead to accusations of bias or favoritism. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify applicants based solely on the monitoring system's flags without a proper investigation. This would be premature and potentially unjust, as the system might have flagged anomalies that have legitimate explanations. Finally, an approach that involves informal discussions or resolutions outside of the established procedural framework would undermine transparency and accountability, creating opportunities for subjective decision-making and potentially violating the spirit, if not the letter, of the university's admission policies. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with acknowledging and validating all data inputs, such as those from a monitoring system. This framework requires a commitment to established procedural guidelines, a thorough and objective investigation of any flagged issues, and a decision-making process that is transparent, documented, and justifiable based on university regulations and ethical principles. When faced with potential irregularities, the professional response is to investigate, not to ignore or to act impulsively. Question 20. The monitoring system demonstrates a candidate exhibiting unusual behavior, including repeatedly looking at their watch and subtly shifting papers on their desk in a manner that suggests they might be referencing external materials during the Aktobe University's Baishev entrance examination. Option A. Discuss the observed behavior with other invigilators during a break to gauge their opinions before taking any action. Option B. Ignore the behavior, assuming it is a normal pre-exam stress response or unrelated to any academic misconduct. Option C. Discreetly approach the candidate and ask them if they are experiencing any difficulties with the exam. Option D. Immediately report the observed behavior to the chief invigilator or the designated examination authority as per university regulations. Correct answer is D. Immediately report the observed behavior to the chief invigilator or the designated examination authority as per university regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential for conflicts of interest and the need to uphold academic integrity. The university entrance exam at Aktobe University, Baishev, has specific regulatory frameworks and guidelines that must be strictly adhered to. The core of the challenge lies in ensuring fairness and preventing any undue influence or bias in the examination process, which is paramount for maintaining the credibility of the university's admissions. The correct approach involves a proactive and transparent reporting mechanism that aligns with the university's established examination regulations. This approach prioritizes immediate notification of the examination board or designated authority about any observed irregularities. This is crucial because university entrance exams are governed by strict rules designed to ensure a level playing field for all applicants. Prompt reporting allows the authorities to investigate the matter thoroughly, take appropriate corrective actions, and maintain the integrity of the examination process as mandated by the university's internal regulations and any applicable national educational standards. Ethical considerations also demand that any potential breach of examination rules be addressed without delay to prevent unfair advantages. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the observed anomaly, assuming it is insignificant or will resolve itself. This failure directly contravenes the university's commitment to a fair and transparent examination process. It risks allowing a potential irregularity to go unchecked, which could compromise the validity of the results and undermine the trust placed in the examination system. Ethically, this inaction constitutes a dereliction of duty to uphold academic standards. Another incorrect approach would be to discuss the observation with other invigilators or staff informally, without reporting it through the official channels. While seemingly an attempt to gather consensus, this bypasses the established protocol for handling examination irregularities. It can lead to the spread of misinformation, create unnecessary anxiety among staff, and delay the official investigation. The university's regulations likely stipulate a specific reporting hierarchy, and deviating from this can be seen as unprofessional and potentially disruptive to the examination's orderly conduct. A third incorrect approach would be to attempt to rectify the situation independently without consulting the examination board or supervisors. This could involve making subjective judgments about the anomaly's severity or implementing ad hoc solutions. Such actions could inadvertently violate examination protocols, create new irregularities, or even be perceived as an attempt to conceal or manipulate the situation, thereby jeopardizing the integrity of the entire examination. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's examination rules and procedures. When an anomaly is detected, the professional must first assess its potential impact on the examination's fairness and integrity. The immediate next step should be to follow the prescribed reporting protocol, which typically involves notifying the chief invigilator or the examination board. This ensures that the matter is handled by the designated authorities who are empowered to investigate and act according to the established regulations. Maintaining objectivity and adhering strictly to the established procedures are key to upholding academic integrity.